What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Turn on the Jets Live. I'm your host, Steven Zantz. Russo is still recovering from his surgery, but wish him all the best. We are joined by a member, second time on the show of the Jets beat, Antwan Staley of the New York Daily News. Antwan, how's it going, man? Appreciate you coming on again.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so nothing's been going on with the Jets, right? I feel like you've been covering just minor stories. How's it
Yeah,
going with
basically.
everything?
Just another busy off season. So, it's just par for the course. But yeah, it's definitely things have been interesting to say the least.
Just a little interesting. Obviously, he's not officially a New York Jet, but Aaron Rodgers has been, the most important thing that's been going on, not only with Jets, but like in the NFL as a whole. I mean, what can you tell us about this whole process? Because I know you've been, digging inside the building for some information before Aaron obviously spoke on the McAfee show the other day. But what was really like the sentiment, building up to that announcement from everything that you heard?
That they've still been working on, which is obviously is still it's being working on right now. Obviously the two sides are definitely Aaron wants to get it done. The Packers definitely want to get it done. They've been kind of vocal about it without having actually directly say it. And then the Jets, obviously, from their perspective, want to get it done, although they hadn't necessarily said anything publicly about that. But yeah, it's still being worked on. They hope to get it done soon. Sooner the better, I think, for both sides. But from what I understand, the Packers would at least want the Jets' first round pick, and I don't know if the Jets necessarily want to give that up. And that's kind of really the standstill. But my perspective is, I know the Jets don't want to give up the first round pick at number 13, but excuse me. But having an Aaron Rodgers there, I definitely think is still worth it. I mean, if you just have to give up one pick to get him, then I say go ahead and do it. I mean, I know you want to keep that pick, but nobody's going to have the impact that Aaron Rodgers is going to bring to your team, at least for the next maybe year or two.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So I feel like Joe Douglas is going to be very firm about not giving up 13. But do you see a scenario where he would give the 2024 first round pick? So maybe it's conditional. Like if the Jets maybe make the AFC Championship game, it becomes a first, then obviously it could be a second or third, depending on the end result. Like, do you see that as a more realistic possibility?
Conditional, yeah, maybe, but I don't know if the Packers would do it like for AFC Championship because I mean that might be. I'm not saying it's unrealistic, but it would take a lot for that to happen. Like maybe if they made the playoffs, then yeah, I could see it, possibly doing that. But or if he plays a number of snaps or whatever the case may be. But the Packers want their first round pick, and I don't blame them. I mean, they know the Jets are in a particular situation where Aaron Rodgers has come out and said that he wants to be there. They obviously want him to be there. The options have kind of come off the table a little bit. They're second and third, so they're. I mean, I'm not saying anybody has leverage, but from their perspective, they definitely want to get it done so they can get him in the building and try to get him more acclimated with his new teammates.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get that. And for me as a Jets fan, and obviously somebody who does content about the team, I mean, I want him there ASAP. I feel like people will be like, oh, he's going to skip OTAs. I feel like he wouldn't. I feel like he wants to meet his new teammates. He wants to develop some chemistry. I think he has like a little bit of a chip on his shoulder based on everything you heard him say on that show. It seems like he's angry and he feels like the Packers are disrespecting him. And I can't speak because I don't know what they told him and what they didn't tell him, but is that the same sentiment that you got from that interview?
I think from his perspective, he probably wishes they would have had better communication with him. I think from his standpoint, he probably knew like at some point like they're going to move on to Jordan Love. I mean, he was kind of in the same situation, as a young guy with Brett Favre, and they drafted him, and he sat behind Brett for 3 years, and at a certain point, you just come to the realization like it's going to happen. I think the only reason it didn't happen to this point was he won multiple MVPs, and the Packers had made the playoffs like 3 consecutive years in a row. So in that case, you're not gonna, get rid of a guy that's playing at a MVP type level, arguably the best quarterback in football. And then last year he suffered some injuries. Obviously, the team wasn't the same there, and his involvement with the team became less and less. But yeah, you kind of hope that he would be a part of OT. Like he needs to because he needs
Yeah.
to get the rapport with his teammates and new coaching staff. Obviously, he knows the system, so I don't think necessarily that's the thing. But you want to have the guys be up to snuff and come up to par and learn the system, especially considering they're coming from the Mike LaFleur offense, which is a similar concept, but it's still, kind of grammatically it's a little bit different than what Nathaniel Hackett runs.
Do you think that they're going to run the exact same offense he ran in Green Bay since Hackett is the offensive coordinator? Or do you think it'll be a little bit different? Maybe more of the things that you saw in Denver, but obviously Aaron having a lot more say because, he's worked with the Hackett before.
I think it'll be pretty similar. I mean, obviously, everybody has their own spin on things with offense, but yeah, they'll probably be about the same. Obviously, that's the offense Aaron Rodgers is known for. X amount of years, especially with Mike LaFleur. So, but yeah, everybody has their kind of. A lot of people teams run the same system anyway. It's just kind of they put their own spin on it with terminology and wrinkles and things like that. And I think that's probably what they'll end up doing.
All right. All right. So I know you attended Alan Lazard's virtual presser earlier today. I saw you tweet out that he's wearing number 5 in honor of KG, which I think is kind of cool because 13 is actually retired by the Jets. What else did you gather from that presser? It seems like he's super excited. He said it's Super Bowl or bust. He's so excited to play with Aaron again. But what was really your thought process on him as someone who really never covered him or watched him closely other than last year when they went to Lambeau?
I mean, I've kind of seen him because I watch ton of college football, so I've kind of seen him for years, especially when he was at Iowa State, and then thought he should have been drafted, but he went undrafted. Jacksonville picked him up, and ended up turning on this solid career with the Green Bay Packers. Had his best year of his career, had 60 catches last year, and I think he's going to be really instrumental to the Jets offense too, especially alongside Garrett Wilson, who I think is going to get more attention this upcoming year simply because of the year that he had. And I think now you implement Aaron Rodgers, and that's going to be his big play threat. I'm not going to go as far to say he's going to put up Devontae Adams night numbers because Devontae Adams is a Hall of Famer, and Garrett is still early in his career. But I definitely think he could take a step forward. But as far as what I gather for the press conference, I just definitely think Nathaniel Hackett played a big role in him coming to the Jets too. I mean, obviously, the thought of having Aaron Rodgers certainly is enticing, but I thought even more so having Nathaniel Hackett there in New York. I definitely think that was the icing on the cake there, and was a big reason why he ended up deciding to sign with the Jets in the first place.
Yeah. So the one thing that everyone's been kind of putting together, just connecting the dots here, is because they got Lazard, they're paying him the exact same money that Corey Davis is making annually. They play similar roles, both big body receivers, both who are really good in the run game. I think Lazard is considered by a lot of people as the best receiver from a run blocking perspective in the NFL. Do you think Corey's going to be outright cut? Do you think he's going to be included in the trade that goes back to Green Bay for Rodgers? It seems like he's probably going to be in the trade because if they didn't want him, I feel like they would have cut him already. Wouldn't you think?
Well, I mean, they still can cut him. I mean, they might. I mean, it depends on what the Packers want to do. The Packers may not want him, but if they do, then yeah, I think he could be involved in the trade. Carl Lawson could still be involved in the trade too, as well. He had some kind of cryptic tweet the other day as well, but they need to free up some money. They got to free up money either way. Whether it be they cut those guys or end up trading them, because the fact of the matter is, once you absorb that Rodgers contract, and I know is going to get restructured at some point, which is also a sticking point, which is going to take why things are kind of taking the time that it is. That at a certain point, you want to have still a little bit of money to spend because you're going to have to pay your draft picks, and also you just want to have money just in case things might happen. And also, Quentin Williams is scheduled to be a free agent after next season, and he wants the big deal. So I think you have to pay him because, one, you already have holes at defensive tackle anyway, even with him. And two, you cannot afford to let him walk out the building. So, yeah, they definitely have to find a way to pay him and free up some money that way.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Do you think that he will get a deal done, before training camp? Do you think this lingers into the season? I feel like the fact that they brought back Quincy means there's a good sign that they're going to negotiate well with Quinnen because same agent, brothers. I feel like it's almost like a package deal. What do you think about that?
I think it'll get done before training. I'm not sure about OTAs though.
Okay.
I think, I mean, that essentially that means they got 2 months in order to do it. And right now they're still, obviously he's not their priority. Obviously the priority is trying to get this Aaron Rodgers situation taken care of, and then the draft, and then probably Quentin Williams would probably be third in that order. But I think the fact of the matter is they will get it done at some point, but he may not show up the OTAs, which is, I think it's fine. I mean, he's a veteran. I don't think it's necessarily that big of a deal, but I think and they're still running the same defense, so it's not like they have changes there. But yeah, I think if they can get it done before training camp, I think that'd be, the ideal situation.
For sure. Do you think there's a possibility that a guy like Tom Clements joins the offensive staff with Rodgers coming along? I know he has a good relationship with him. I feel like there's going to be somebody added that Rodgers really likes in addition to Hackett. Is that a possibility, or you think the offensive staff is completely set?
I won't say completely set. I mean, anything can happen, but as far as what I understand, I don't think that's necessarily in the cards. But again, anything can happen, especially when you have Aaron Rodgers there, and he wants his guys there and some familiarity. So it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the Jets are already doing a lot of things to cater to him in the first place, so it wouldn't surprise me if they were to continue to go down that road.
Yeah. So I'm interested to know what kind of free agents that they're looking at. They've obviously brought back a few guys. They let a few guys go, like Mike White, Berrios, and Feeney to Miami. I saw earlier today that they're still talking to Beckham. I know that Rodgers said who wouldn't want Beckham on their team. So you're kind of connecting the dots there that they'd be interested in him. But obviously he's going to be expensive unless his market dries up. Besides him and, Randall Cobb, Mercedes Lewis, and whomever from Green Bay, who are some guys to keep an eye on because they need to fill the safety spot. They probably need some interior defensive line help and probably maybe another linebacker to help out Mosley and Quincy, because behind those two guys, they're pretty thin. You'd expect Quan's going to walk. Who are some guys you've heard that they're interested in, and maybe there's some guys that they actually will probably end up bringing in?
Well, I don't know. I don't expect a lot of moves because like they're not going to have a ton of money because when you absorb that Rodgers deal and obviously, that's going to take up a bulk of the money. They'll have some, but
But
I
it's
don't
only
expect it to
16.
be.
But isn't it only 16 against the actual cap for the year? And they could do void years and stuff like that. I feel like they're going to pile up some guys, right?
Yeah, I think they could, but I don't expect it's going to be like big ticket guys like I think a lot of people expect it to be. And as you kind of hit up, they still need a center. They
Mm-hmm.
definitely safety. I don't know. They might be set as safe. I mean, you still got Jordan Whitehead on the roster too. Depends on what they want to do with him. And they picked up Chuck Clark from the Ravens, so they kind of play similar type roles. But yeah, they seem content from what I understand that they're going to keep him. They're going to keep both of them at least for now. Definitely linebacker is still a concern. We talked about defensive tackle too as well. They definitely. I know they tried to go out and try to get Quentin Cox. Obviously, they offer him a lot of money, but he still wanted to stay with the Eagles, which, I don't blame him what's so bit. He's staying with a Super Bowl contender there, even though
Yeah.
they've had some changes there. But yeah, I definitely think Odell is something that they're definitely going to be interested in because, it's something that Aaron Rodgers wants and it's a familiarity. You talked about Randall Cobb too as well. I don't necessarily know how many catches he'll get in the offense, but to have him as like a fifth receiver, I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. But it's going to come
Yeah.
down to price with Beckham. That's basically what it's going to come down to. And it might be some teams that could offer him a little bit more money, but you kind of hope that, the thought of playing with Aaron Rodgers, he might decide to take a little bit less money there.
He also has a place here from his time with the Giants. So it's like a comfort level of, he knows what it's like to live around here. So I think, anything's possible with that. They were linked to a guy in Jamal Williams who ended up going to the Saints. Do you think that they're still kind of dancing around in that market? Because, we don't know if Breece Hall is going to be ready for week 1. I expect him to be ready, or at least somewhat ready early in the season. Zeke is a guy that I've been interested in. Do you think that there's any interest there, or probably not?
It might be, but I have a certain, thought about running back. I draft them. I don't sign old veteran free agents as far as running backs, especially
Okay.
ones that are past their prime. Now, they're the team, they can do whatever the hell they want to. But, from my perspective, like I draft them, I keep them for 4 or 5 years and I get rid of them. I don't necessarily get, second year contracts too, unless you're special. Like
Yeah.
Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, like that special. Like, so like Ezekiel Elliott, the thought of Ezekiel Elliott, maybe, but again, like I think I've been saying it, they should draft a running back. They really should, because you don't necessarily know if Brees Hall, he might be ready, but is he going to be, fully 100%? It took Saquon a full year to coming back from ACL injury just to be himself once again. Who's to say, with Brees, like he suffered an injury late October last year, that he's probably not gonna be exactly what he was, at least not early on. So the way to do that is to take pressure off him. I thought Jamal Williams would have been, a really good deal there. I'm surprised, he didn't get more money than what he
Me
did
too.
from the Saints. I was like, wow, the running back market is, not very good. Apparently, a lot of people don't think highly of it. But I expected Jamal Williams to, get a whole bank, and I definitely didn't expect him to go to the Saints, even though I know, some lingering situation with Kamara. But yeah, I definitely think they're going to address the running back position one way or the other. Probably the draft, but I could definitely see them bringing in a free agent as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't want them to break the bank for it, but because of the uncertainty of when Brees is going to be, himself, Ty Johnson's a free agent. Michael Carter, I think, regressed a little bit in year 2 in the system, and I think Bam Knight's a nice addition. I think they're going to use him a lot on specials, especially with Braxton going to Miami. But yeah, I think you should always try to fill up your running back room with youth because, like you said, it's a position that you don't necessarily want to give a second contract unless it's a generational player like an Emmitt Smith or an Adrian Peterson and whatnot. So yeah, I hope that they address it in some capacity, but I do feel good about that room. I'm scared about interior defensive line right now outside of Quinn and Williams. I know they brought Solomon Thomas back, but he's really just a rotational player. But yeah, do you think that that's a possibility, if they keep the 13th pick and if like the 3 linemen that they've been linked to, I guess right now with Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones, and then Skoronski from Northwestern, do you think that's a possibility?
Oh yeah, they definitely need defensive tackle. I think offensive tackle, linebacker. I still think is a possibility too as well. But yeah, I don't know if they would take one that early, but I definitely think defensive tackle is definitely something you can look at. I know Jalen Carter, he might slip a little bit simply because he came into his pro day a little bit overweight and didn't run as well in the drills there. So I mean, if he's there, I mean, he has the talent. It's just a matter of him, putting it together and being in tremendous shape. And maybe he feels like now that his days are kind of you know put this thing to bed a little bit too with his legal issues that maybe he can get back on the right track and be in an organization that has a good defense, has somebody alongside him with like a Quentin Williams that could help motivate him. So that might be an option too for them as well. I definitely think offensive tackle is still a concern because I like Dwayne Brown. I mean, he'll be 38 in August. So even if you do have him back and he's, relatively healthy, you're still going to need somebody eventually to take that spot. Becton, he looks good. I mean, it's no denying that as far as the weight loss. But again, he's going to be in the final year of his contract soon because they're not going to pick up his 5th-year option. So you definitely want to, build for the future. I definitely think, having Becton there, and he hadn't played in 2 years, so I don't know how much you can rely on him, but it's a good piece to have for depth. And then that's what you want to have, somebody that can, if something goes down, like as far as the injuries, they had 11 offensive linemen last year start games for them. You try not to have that again, but in case you do, you definitely want to make sure you have some depth there at that spot.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I feel like Becton is going to end up being the starting right tackle. I think he'll beat out Max Mitchell, who I thought actually played really well in spot duty last year. I know he had that, I think it was a blood clot in his lungs.
Blood clot, yes.
Yeah, I hope he's okay. No noise on Connor McGovern. Do you think that they're going to bring him back, or do you think they're going to more likely go in maybe the 2nd round or something, get a center in the draft? I feel like they should get 2 centers or at least somebody who has positional flexibility. What do you think about Connor McGovern right now?
Probably not going to come back. I think
Okay.
that's part of my expectation. So yeah, I'm kind of with you, like bring in a veteran, but also maybe draft a guy too as well. So that way you have that veteran leadership too as well, and also have a young guy where you can possibly mold as well. So I think 2nd, 3rd round might be an option for them at that spot. But yeah, definitely as far as McGovern, I got the sense even before free agency that he probably wasn't going to return.
Makes sense to me. They did bring in the guy Schweitzer from Washington.
Yes.
It seems like he's basically the Herbig replacement. Would you say it's safe to say that Herbig's not going to be brought back?
Yeah, well, I think he's agreed to a contract. I think it was Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think, and obviously Thiele is going to Miami, so I definitely think he kind of takes both of those roles.
I mean, Jeff fans aren't too upset that Dan Fitty's not going to be back. Great hair, good locker room guy, but not very good at blocking. So I'm not overly upset by that. So I appreciate you taking the time with me, last 20 minutes. But I want to do 2 things. One, I want you to predict the compensation of the trade, what you think it's going to end up being. And I won't hold you to it if you're wrong. And 2, I want you to pick just the day of when you think it's going to happen, because you kind of said before the draft, but I want to at least get your prediction on this.
I mean, the compensation, I probably would say, I think they're gonna have to give up the 1st-round pick. I really do. I think that's probably what they're gonna have to give up. I know they don't want to, I know they're kind of button heads, but yeah, just give up the pick. I mean, it's not. I mean, I know it's a big deal, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, you still have other picks in the draft too as well. So yeah, just give up. If it takes 13 and Aaron Rodgers takes the Jets to the AFC Championship next year, nobody's gonna give a damn about that pick anyway. So yeah, just give it up and just be done. If that's the only pick you have to give up to get Aaron Rodgers, fine. Like okay, that's what I would say. But yeah, I think that's probably what's going to end up happening. As far as the day, uh, hell, probably I'll say April the 7th. Like to say that.
All right. But are you excited now? They're not going to have all these 1 o'clock games. You're going to have some primetime games. What are you excited for that, or you prefer
Not
them to be
really.
early?
Not really.
You don't want the late night traffic getting out of the stadium?
No, it's not that, but it's just deadlines. It's definitely you have to look at it from our perspective as far as dead. We have like late deadlines, and then if we have 11 o'clock games, it's not gonna make the paper.
That's fair, but I feel like they're going to get the maximum amount of primetime games they can get. They're going to
They'll
break
probably
their
get five. They'll probably
yeah,
get five. Yeah.
which is listen for me, someone who's been following the team my entire life. They haven't really had a lot of primetime games other than like Thursday night, occasionally a Monday night. So I'm excited. I feel like when Mahomes comes to town this year, that's going to be on either Sunday night or Monday Night Football. Like I'm super excited for that. I mean, that like who doesn't want to see Rodgers, Mahomes in in a primetime spot? I mean, people want to see them play each other in the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, it didn't end up happening. So, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. I won't hold you to those predictions if it's a first round pick, if it's not a first round pick, and if it doesn't happen on April 7th. But
Please
I
don't.
appreciate the. I will not. Make sure you guys follow Antwan on Twitter, Antwan J Staley, correct? Right?
V Staley.
Oh, V Staley. I'm sorry, but yeah,
But
great
Antwan
stuff.
Staley. It's just Antwan Staley on Twitter. But yeah.
Okay. Okay, but yeah, make sure to follow Antwan there. He's got great pieces. I'm sure he'll have plenty of stuff about Aaron Rodgers as he's becoming a Jet. I'm sure there'll be some stuff that's going on. I'm sure Aaron's going to embrace being in New York and whatnot. But yeah, Antwan, appreciate it, man.
No problem.
Yeah, take care.
All right.
Yeah. So just to wrap up the show, we'll definitely have Russo on once he's ready. I can't wait to have him back. We appreciate everybody who's been tuning in, and make sure to check out our next show.